Wow, 2K really does make a difference. We were at 1280 by 720 before, and recently StreamYard graded us to 2K because now they have 4K, and of course that costs more money. And I'll think about it, but boy, what a difference this makes. So hopefully the audio quality is better too. I think that it is. Yeah, welcome to Breaking the Silence. I can see our poster better. Okay, that's good. If you really want to see it, I can. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh, that's not what. What the heck? They've changed things, and so I'm getting used to it. But now you can really see it because we're in 2K. Isn't that neat? You can see all the interesting detail in it and stuff. So, anyway, let's bring my dear friend, Mr. Earl Grey Anderson, on. And I'll stop babbling. Hey, haven't
Hey
seen
there,
you for a
Steve.
while. Not since today.
I know. It's good to see. It's always good to see you, Steve. My audio and everything okay?
Yeah, no, I've been working on a submarine all day, and I think I finally got it nailed for the guy so he can come. This is the last time I'm ever building a model for anyone. It's an old friend, and I pretty much stopped doing that. So,
What kind of a sub?
It's a Gato class World War II submarine. It was our primary sub during World War II.
Oh,
And yeah,
early
I have the enemy's one.
Yeah.
It's the one from Das Boat, Type 7, which has always been my favorite. So, but it's good to get that behind me. So, and I've been working a lot on the next short film that I'm doing, which will be in 3 weekends, I believe. And it's really quite elaborate. If you think the things I've been doing up to this point have been elaborate, this is way beyond those. And in fact, we're not even in the same format anymore. We're in super scope, widescreen, 35 millimeter and 2.93, I believe, aperture. So it's really nice looking. So yes, and tomorrow is we have Zev Talk on, and her premieres tomorrow night for her show. And I did some things for that I have not done before because I keep learning more and more after all these years working with. Oh, hey, thank you, Alchemist. With CGI, they just keep coming up with new stuff that just makes the stuff more interesting. So, but enough of that. What are you doing here?
I want to talk more about this. I mean, just watching your lead into the program is better than most movies that I've been to.
Well, that's the old
last
stuff.
Few years.
That's the old
always
stuff.
Such gorgeous work, and of course, we both are fans of Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. We have similar stories on that. I mean, I forced my parents to take me to see that film for my 10th birthday. I think that they were hoping I would settle on something else, and it was like, nope. I just dug my heels into the ground. It's like 2001 or nothing, except I think I called it 2001. That's 10 years old. I guess I just couldn't wrap my head around the year 2001, but made such an impression on me.
So you're the state director for MUFON, and I know that for a lot of people that are experiencers and have close encounters experiences, when they hear MUFON, it's like the thing in the Three Stooges, Niagara Falls. Slowly I step by step, inch by inch. People kind of run away because they think MUFON's going to chuckle at them. And you've been working hard to change that.
Oh, yeah. I'm not the first. I mean, it started back in the 1990s, when MUFON started getting, not just UFO reports, but, they started getting very serious and detailed experiencer reports, and they didn't quite know what to do with them. And Bud Hopkins is who they got a hold of at first to get some help establishing, how to deal with those cases and what those people needed. It was, MUFON is kind of known as a nuts and bolts oriented organization for a long time. And my dear friend and mentor, Kathleen Martin, she came in, and it was, I think, around 2015 or so, established the Experiencer Resource Team. It was originally called the Experiencer Research Team, but we changed. We got to keep the acronym. It's still the ERT, but we realized that we were being more of a resource for those people, for us people, because I am an experiencer myself, and that's I think really what changed a lot in MUFON. And I've watched the organization. I've been with MUFON for about 9 years. And as you know, my wife and I had our own contact experience 9 years ago. Yeah.
We did a whole show on it.
Yeah, we did.
And one of the episodes you can go and watch. And,
yes, you can. And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think that you captured what happened probably better than, when you're in that and it's happening, there's so much going on. There's that psychological element, and there's the Oz effect, which people sometimes don't convey as much in literature and stuff, but where things become hyper quiet, time becomes slowed down, it seems like, or malleable or something. And to me, it began with our room filling with that blue glow, and it seems like that made our space into their space somehow, where the magic happens, more or less. Although it scared the hell out of me when it happened. I was doing like a little, just for the heck of it. I didn't expect it to work, but I was doing sort of my own version of CE5, but I wasn't asking for lights in the sky or to see a craft. I was putting out there, I want to meet you. I didn't specify who I wanted to meet. I think in my mind, I was thinking like Valiant Thor, or, the tall Nordic Viking looking guys, take me around, maybe give me a little short trip of the galaxy. But no, I met our little friends that you had portrayed in your little animation there at the beginning,
right.
the gray guys,
right.
And
we have
not talkative.
Hey,
oh, hello, new person. But I was really, I was scared and confused when it happened. Not to mention my wife, she was mad. I think she felt like I had brought this on her, and I probably did. We had 3 different nights. We call it the Weird Week. It happened 9 years ago. I think that I had been working with MUFON about 6 months. I hadn't even closed a case as an unknown yet. It had been all mostly drones and balloons and things like that. So, but I think I realized that when you poke at the phenomenon, you can't be surprised. It pokes back. It's interactive. And they took, if the price of the ticket is my DNA, go for it. Well, yeah, they took blood, and they got my DNA, a lot of it. I was talking to a good friend of mine, Dr. Joseph Burks, yesterday. He was saying, well, there's probably like a bunch of little Earl aliens out there now.
Yeah,
they needed that much
DNA. Send them over here.
Me.
We could use help.
But yeah, really, I need some assistance here. Maybe they can be put to work or something. But it really surprised me. I mean, it completely, the ontological shock. It pulled the rug right out from under me as far as my presuppositions about the phenomena, about life itself. And it just felt very much like a ship at sea in a storm with no anchor. And I really, I went and sought the counsel of my then state director, and he was very nuts and bolts about the phenomena. He's evolved since then, but he wasn't quite sure what to do with me. And his advice to me was you should probably keep this to yourself, because there's a lot of ridicule out there. And but I sought out the help of Kathleen Martin, and I knew about the ERT. I wasn't a member of the ERT yet, but I met with Kathleen over lunch, and I told her what happened. I told her my story, and she didn't raise her eyebrow. She didn't, question me or, tilt her head funny or anything. She knew, from me talking about certain details. I mean, she had no question that this had happened to me. And it was just very, very cathartic having somebody just listen to me and be supportive like that to me. I owe Kathleen so much. I mean, I care so much for
well,
her.
that's the same with me and Yvonne. I mean, she was someone who could just go and
I work with
help
Yvonne
a
quite a
lot.
bit. I send
My
a lot
family
of
wouldn't listen to me.
experiencers.
They wanted to have me committed.
Yeah.
Me Mike says John Alexander once said, if they are so advanced, why would they even need our DNA? Well, for me personally, I can answer that question by saying that you will find, no matter how far you go in the universe, you're going to find the same strain of DNA everywhere. So their DNA is not necessarily more advanced than our DNA. We all came from the same strain.
I'm kind of, I sort of believe in panspermia, that it's, you talk about the Oort cloud that circles on the far perimeter of our solar system.
Mm-hmm.
And they believe that all stars have something like the Oort cloud. And, it's carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. And, the idea is that those are the elements, the building blocks of carbon-based life. And perhaps the DNA is in that soup that surrounds our star system, that it was intentionally put there. Sort of like our favorite film again, intentionally buried on the moon, the Tycho magnetic anomaly of 2001. But the same sort of thing, that perhaps the universe has been seeded purposefully so that life will arise, that's the commonality and the normalcy.
Sure.
And I imagine that it's the life, that the universe is teeming with life, intelligence.
Weird noises inside here. Has anybody else noticed? And I'm talking to our community in chat. Have you noticed what's behind Earl up there in the upper left-hand corner? And where the heck did you get that?
Oh, is that my little the
Adamski?
The Adamski craft.
Yeah.
You could order that model from, I think I just maybe ordered it from Amazon, or did I get it from Amazon?
Really?
Or I might have gotten it from a hobby store. But they make the model. I
didn't know that. I did not. It's a decent size, so
yeah.
I need one of those.
I put a little light in it sometimes, if it's nighttime, and it looks pretty cool. The inside of it, I did all the detail work. I put little controls, and it looks very the day the Earth stood still inside.
So I did not know. I haven't kept up on modeling, and I've been a model builder all my life, professionally and also hobbyist. But I didn't know about that one. I knew about the sport model and
I got
the German one. But that's a must-have, because I grew up on that, and so what's the deal about that being a chicken egg incubator?
My dad said that when I was a little kid.
Right.
After I heard my mom and my aunt discussing the Betty and Barney Hill case, we listened in on that, my cousins and I, and they were having quite a heated argument. My aunt knew about my mom's work. My mom, if people don't know about it, my mom worked for Howard Hughes as one of his personal secretaries back in the 1950s. And she gave me a little disclosure number when I was 5 years old. She didn't think I would remember, and I think she had to get it off of her chest. And boy, I'll tell you, it came back to haunt her for many years. I mean, I kept asking her, and she went back into working in the aerospace industry. She was more or less working for the military industrial complex. David Grush's litany, Lockheed, Northrop, Raytheon, Rocketdyne, Aerojet. I mean, all of those companies that are the gatekeepers of this information. Well, those were my mom's clients. She would get scientists out to them, and engineers, and so I would ask her for more information, and it would just be, I can't talk about it. I could go to prison. I've signed stuff. How did you remember me telling you that? You were just 5, you're a baby. But we heard my mom telling my aunt that she believed that the Betty and Barney Hill case was a reality, that it was a very true thing.
So it wasn't a chicken feeder.
No, it wasn't a chicken feeder. Well, this led me to go, once I heard that conversation, I got really interested in the phenomenon, and they had some books at school. They had one that it was sort of an omnibus copy. It had Hynek's book. It had, I believe it had, who else was in there? It had sort of a edited version of Adamski's, one of his books. So it had the photograph in there, and my dad came over and he said, "That's a chicken feeder."
Yeah. And then I've heard an incubator. Did you ever try to verify that? I did. I tried to look up on the net anything that showed an incubator or a feeder that looked like that, and I couldn't find one.
I can't find it either.
Me neither.
So,
and of course, that just held over to the. I was personal friends with Larry Cohen, the creator of the Invaders TV series. And of course, he was influenced by that.
Well, that was a cool model.
Yeah, I
made that model a few times.
I have that, and it's lit
as
up.
A kid,
stuff goes around the bottom, and I made a diorama of. I'll show it once on one of the shows. But
I've never seen that.
But right before Larry passed,
everybody out there, I've seen Steve's studio. I've been there, and he's got all this.
Didn't see that one
model
though.
Work in there.
It's in a place where you don't really see it. Yeah, and it lights up and it does everything.
Cool.
But Larry was the creator of that, and right before he passed away, we were working together on a movie of the Invaders series, because Roy Thinnis is still very much with us and everything. And I remember he said to me, "Now, the one thing, Steve, I got to ask you about, should we keep that design or should we, move into the 21st century?" And I said, "No, do not change that ship." Unfortunately, because it was so iconic, and unfortunately he passed before we got a chance to make that film, and the whole project went belly up. But
that's unfortunate.
He didn't know one way or the other if there was a reality to the UFO phenomenon, but he was interested in it. He was an interesting guy. I did a number of movies with him. So we've ruled out that it's a chicken feeder. I'm obsessed with it. I keep seeing it up there going, "Oh my God, it's been a long time since I've seen something that's a model kit that I want to get." So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So let me go back here a second.
Sure.
When I went to see you, before we got to be friends, I went to a MUFON, one of your meetings that you have in LA, in the Valley. You have them every month, and they're very good, by the way.
Thank you.
And you had Hynek's kids there, and he gave a talk, and
we had Joel. It's usually
we had Joel.
I got Joel
and his brother, right? And his brother was there. So, and James was the one who turned me on to that. But while I was there, you were talking, and you brought up the Jackrabbit case. Can you talk about that at all?
Sure.
I mean, you talked about it there. Pleasure. But I think that the community here would really like hearing about that case. And boy, I'd love to get my hands on that and reenact it.
Oh, I can hook you up. I can hook
if
you up
think
with
it's
the main
possible.
witness.
Yeah, but tell them about it.
She's watching us right now, I believe. She said she was going to. Yeah, she said to give her a shout out. I usually don't share any personal information about my experiencers, right?
Right, of course.
I'm very, very careful about that. But Susan went public. She's gone public. She's been on a few different podcasts. Okay. So it's
because I'm all too familiar with seeing things that don't make sense, and then oh my God, suddenly you see them for what they really are. And this is a great one.
I saw the case when it came in, and my boss in MUFON's ERT is Dr. George Medich, who I love George. He was a famous baseball star. He was a pitcher for the Yankees, And then he went on to become a sports, he became a orthopedic surgeon when he retired from baseball. I mean, the man is an orthopedic surgeon. He's got Topps cards, hot shot pitcher. And when he retired, he became the director of MUFON's Experiencer Resource Team. And when that case came in, George is reading it, and we're talking, and he said, jackrabbits. And it's like, yeah. This is a perfect example of screen images that are used. And I know you know about screen images.
Yeah, but they describe them as being quite tall, bigger than jackrabbits are.
Well, I got the case in, and I have this wonderful field investigator who's also an ERT member, Richard Banazak. And he's a retired police detective. He like a public servant. That's the way he sees what he did. He's the cop that you would want to have show up to your door. And he's very, very good with these cases. He's very detail oriented. He treats it like you would a court case. But the beautiful thing about Richard is that he has a very, very open mind. He knows that the experiencer phenomenon is real and active, and he knows how weird it can be. So I decided to give him that case. I knew that he would do a better job on it than probably I regard Richard's work. So, but the case, what it was, these two women, it was back in 1976, I believe, that two women had just been honorably discharged from the Navy, and their commanding officer had a car that he wanted them to deliver to his home, which was in Utah. So they left San Diego. We have the big Navy yard and Navy base there, one of the largest in the country. A lot of UFO sightings off of that area too, by the way. The Tic Tac happened in that, that region. But anyway, they were taking a cross-country trip. And I believe Susan had relatives that were, across the country. So they're driving. They're in the middle of the desert when the road was completely blocked with jackrabbits. This was in the middle of the night. They were listening to Steely Dan, Katie lied. They even remembered what album they were listening to on the stereo. And they had to stop the car. And these jackrabbits were like 3 foot to 3.5 foot tall, which doesn't exist. But yet there are these extraordinarily, it's like, I don't know, it has a kind of a comic element to it, like Harvey or something, the big rabbit. So they get out, they're confused. They see the road is completely obscured by these tall jackrabbits. And Susan said that she noticed that the stars were blotted out above her. They'd gotten out of the car, their eyes had accommodated to night vision, but you couldn't see the stars. And this is the middle of the desert, and you couldn't see the stars. So they suddenly they realized that it was a large saucer-shaped object, sort of like an inverted bowl, and it was black in color, and God's own spotlight shone down on them from this craft. Simultaneously, all the rabbits turned around very dramatically, and they were no longer rabbits. They were our little gray friends. The last thing that the witnesses remember is being taken up physically into the air towards this craft. And their next memory is hours later, they find themselves in a diner in Utah. Okay, and the rabbits, that happened, I think, was it Colorado where that happened? So it was, 400 miles distant. And they were in a diner, and they're like coming to, like they were in a trance or something. The waitress came up to them and said, "You have to order something, ladies, if you're going to stay here." And they're confused. They didn't know how they got there. They didn't have any memory of hours past. The car apparently was taken by the ETs as well, because the car was parked outside, like dropped there, but the miles did not show up on the odometer. They had the old AAA triptych that you used to get, where you would, keep record of how many miles you traveled, and when the gas tank was completely full, it hadn't been refilled, and but their car was 400 miles away. Both women had what looked like radiation burns, like red blotches all over.
Yeah, I'll catch one on the other side tonight.
They felt sick for they felt sick for a while. Now, an interesting thing is that they, and they felt like they couldn't talk to each other about it. But Susan, she always remembered this. It always it was this mystery to her. Now, she had never had a surgery in her life. She went to her doctor, and they had done, I believe it was a MRI on her, or X-rays. I think it was an MRI. And her doctor asked, "Well, who did surgery on your appendix? It looks like you've had laser surgery, like corrective surgery somehow or another. I mean, they didn't remove your appendix; they fixed it. I can see like a laser scar across your appendix." And and she was missing an ovary. So apparently they fixed up her appendix. Maybe she had a ovarian cyst or something, and they fixed that, but they just took the ovary. And anyhow, she has the proof from the doctor, and she has the record. I mean, there's no surgical scars on her, but somehow or another they uninvasively fixed her appendix for her.
Probably the same way Bones McCoy did.
Yes, little tricorder thing, right? And I think that, anyway, Richard did a beautiful job on this case, and I was kind of over his shoulder the whole time, because I had personal interest in this one, because it was just the witnesses. And particularly Susan was such a wonderful witness. No reason to make this stuff up. Crazy story. But Preston Dennett, she'd read, I guess, one of Preston Dennett's books, and she got hold of him. He wrote about her case first, before it had actually been investigated thoroughly. And he was who told her, well, you should go and submit your case to MUFON. And put it in for the ERT to look into your case, and maybe you can get proper. I was able to get her in touch with people that could be supportive in her life, and that's kind of what we do in the ERT. We have support groups and things like that. We have a provider list. We have a list of hypnotherapists, certified hypnotherapists, all over the country here and overseas as well. We have people in the UK and Canada and elsewhere. So, but Susan's become a good friend. We've been on a couple of podcasts together. I had her on my podcast recently, along with Richard and Debbie Shakti, who is the hypnotherapist that did her regression for her. And that's where she was able to fill in the pieces that she didn't remember. But most of everything she remembered, she retained her memory of her experience, except for the details and being in the ship and stuff like that. That all came back, through Debbie.
Yeah, you will remember a lot of it. You will remember a lot of it. But that part where
I've never been hypnotized.
No,
my memory is fully mine. Yeah, I've never been regressed. There was no real need to.
It's the details sometimes, though. I mean, for me, there's been a few times that it just, these men that looked like cops that weren't cops came up to the window, flashed their flashlights at me, and the next thing I know, I'm on the freeway and I'm driving home, and I've lost 2.5 hours. It's 2 a.m. in the morning, and I didn't know how I got there. That has happened. Yeah,
video that you did of that was beautiful. It
Yeah.
happens to this day. Wasn't that the name of that one?
No, that was another one. That's
that
when I went to see my girlfriend in Davis, California, and I drove up there, and then on the way back is
but the one you're talking about was with your grandparents, wasn't it? And
no, that was another one.
Like,
that's when I was younger. That one was when I had my Alfa Romeo, and I was driving back from UC Davis to San Francisco, and I kept hearing voices, and they kept telling me to pull over, and I couldn't keep my eyes open. I wasn't even tired. I just had to pull over, and I laid down in the car, and then I really didn't get to sleep, but suddenly there were lights flashing in the windows, and I did that one too, So it would be great.
Well, maybe I haven't seen that one. I thought that I'd seen.
We've done like 30. We've done like 30 shows, and I think with Sev we're up to about 30, and the one I'm doing now makes it 31, and so on and so forth. And we got Judy coming out, and we got Ann coming out. It's just going to be great, and we're going to do their stories. But it'd be great to get your friend Susan. Is it?
Yeah, I'm going to hook you guys up. I'm sure she'll want to do that. I've been thinking that way. There's a few people I know where I think that I mean, not as many that'll want to go and do the whole CGI and come, go public. But for Mary too, with her secret stories, I've got a bunch of people that will want to.
I bet you do. I mean, after all, you're the MUFON
I mean, we found
in California.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're plugged in. So
well, we really found we have a simpatico, you and I, and Mary as well. I mean, you I think were who said that when we first met and we hung out, that it felt like we had already known each other somehow.
Yeah.
That we were sort of fast
Maybe
friends.
we do.
But maybe we've been in the same craft.
Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows?
You don't know.
Maybe that's why if I get hypnotically regressed, maybe that memory would come back, right?
No, I've had experiences where I met humans in the experience, and then in particular, one of them walked in as a new support group, a new member of Suro. Back in the 90s, and it was shocking because she recognized me too, and we had never seen each other before. Except I saw her in an experience, and she wasn't someone that could look sort of like. She was very distinct. She had red hair, glasses. I mean, everything. It was her, and the look on her face when she came in to the support group and Yvonne introduced her, she looked at me, and it was something.
That's so wild. I know.
Sorry
that
about
happens.
Making noise. I turn this thing off. There.
How does one report an experience to MUFON? If you go to MUFON.com, on the very front page, you'll notice two links. One says report a UFO, and there's a second one that says report an abduction or an entity. So you can click both if you want. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they've had it for a while, and your case will go to somebody like myself. We work regionally. In the ERT, we have 80 some people, maybe more than that now. We constantly have new people coming in. A lot of people with backgrounds in psychology. For me, I was a nurse for 40 years, recently retired. And I think that helped kind of smooth the way for myself. I'm used to dealing with people socially and in sometimes difficult situations. We have psychologists, teachers. We have people that have trained at the Monroe Institute and things like that. And then we have, like my other, one of my ERTs here she's a real estate agent, but she's used to talking with people. And the main thing is that you have to have an open mind. you just not just anybody can join the ERT. We train the people. We kind of put them into a mock situation where Denise Stoner would play like she was the experiencer, and they will have the person do a mock interview. It's usually the training period. Like I was mentored for my first year, and that's not unusual. Usually for about a year, you'll get cases, but you're still being mentored. Kathleen Martin, she'll sometimes say, "I was Earl's mentor, but she will always be my mentor." And I had wonderful mentors there. I mean, it was Ann Castle, who was she was from the Monroe Institute. She's an amazing remote viewer. She's solved cold cases and stuff for law enforcement. I had Maddie Tobias, who's a Reiki expert and just an intellectual, amazing woman. She's got a book that she wrote called God, Dogs, and UFOs. It's kind of her story.
Oh yes, I think Whitley had her on the show. You know, Mary's a Reiki.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
She's quite the healer,
fantastic.
Aren't you, Mary?
And then I had Kathleen Martin and Denise Stoner. And their
Stoner,
book.
You know that name too.
Yeah, Denise is
Kathleen is in the East Coast still. Is she?
Mm-hmm. She's in Florida.
Yeah, because I never met her. I met Bud and spent some time with him. She might have been there too in the room, but I just didn't put it together. It was at LAX at a conference that Yvonne was at, and she says, "You want to meet Bud?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "We'll come up to this room. We're going to have some wine and stuff." And
wow,
so got to
Peter Robbins is a dear friend.
Sit on the bed with Bud and talk about this stuff and have a glass of wine. And there's all these other noticeable. Richard Hoagland was in the room and all these other people. Wow. And it was an amazing time. The 90s was really something.
Yeah.
Not that
Peter
it
was
now.
Part of all that. Peter Robbins was Bud's assistant. And Peter, he was probably the first person I told about my experience. I didn't know who to go to. Yeah, I really didn't.
It sounds like Ghostbusters. Who are you going to call?
Yeah. But finally I came to my senses. I just got a hold of Kathleen. We met, and it was maybe an hour over lunch. Linda Moulton Howe. It was at the Alien Con, the very first Alien Con, and Linda Moulton Howe. She took my arm and she walked me around the merch room because she wanted to talk, and then she brought me back to Kathleen. It was kind of a crazy, wild, amazing day. And after I talked with Kathleen, and I felt such catharsis and actually joy and hope, I asked Kathleen, I said, well, I might want to join the ERT myself. How would I get interviewed for that? And she looked at me and she reached her hand out, shook my hand, and she said, well, what do you think we've been doing the last hour? Yeah. You are absolutely welcome to join the ERT. And that's how it began for me. And I guess I've probably done probably a good 300 experiencer cases with the ERT. And I think it helps. And you don't have to be an experiencer yourself to work with them. Mm-hmm.
No, I get that. You just have to have that open mind and have some knowledge of it. But so 300 cases, and so that was been over a what year span?
It was about. I was with MUFON for a couple of years before I met with Kathy. So I think 2017, around 2017. Wow,
that's a lot of cases between 2017
and
now.
Well, I'm on like my 1040th MUFON case right now, which is some kind of a record. I think Dev Rugney, she's the state director of Northern California right now, because we split the state in half. It's such a huge, sprawling state, and we're so busy here in California. We have 3 times more UFO reports than any other state of the union. So,
Right. And these
but anyway, Dev Rugney has more cases than I have, but she's been working with MUFON, a lot longer than I have too. So
this is all recent in right up to this date, and I know they have been, and yet there are experiencers out there, and I won't mention names, but that have said that that it's all being done by our government, and there's no beings from other worlds here right now. They're too afraid to come here because of what's going on with our son. And the person I talked to went elaborate detail about all this stuff, which sounded very conspiratorial and stuff. And yet, I think our government's incapable of just in this area doing 300.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, come on. So, and this is spreading. You hear the people talk about it too, and it's just like I take it with a grain of salt right now. I mean,
yeah,
maybe there's something they know. I don't know. I don't know for sure, but our gut says So
one of those folks tried to say that the Betty and Barney Hill case. I'm not going to mention names. I'm not out to trash anybody. I don't do that. But that was done by the government. 1961. I don't think so.
No. Do you have a question up there?
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. I think that's Mary. It says breaking the silence.
It could be her. It could be me, but I'm not typing right now, so it's her.
Yeah. So, I got sidetracked a little bit there, Mary. I was headed that direction. But anyway, if you go to MUFON.com and you click on report and abduction or entity, your case will go to the ERT member that is in your state. In some states, like I have 5 ERT members on my team, myself being one of them. And I will assign the case usually to the person who I think would be best suited to that case. If it's a woman, I'll try to give it to one of my female field investigators. Not necessarily, but I kind of try to do that, especially if there was, like ovum extraction or anything like that. It's easier, I think, for a woman to speak with another woman. So I try to do that. But that's the way we do it. Dr. Medich will initially, he'll sign us, he'll give that to me, the case initially, and then I will divvy them out to my ERT folks on my team. And it's the same way with any state here. If it goes to Florida, it'll go to their state director and their main ERT person, and then I'll send the person an email. I'll get a hold of them. I'll schedule an interview with the person. Oftentimes, it's going to take more than one interview. It can be quite time consuming depending on the case. Some cases, it's like, well, I woke up and there were 2 grays standing by my bed, and they telepathically communicated with me, and then they were gone.
You have another question.
In Arkansas.
Sorry.
I'm not sure if we have one in Arkansas. We may, but in the southern states, we do have quite a few ERT members up in the southern states, and so it will go to the closest ERT person to you. Again, we try to work regionally, so that's the way it works.
Me, Mike, we are disclosure.
Exactly.
You can't expect it to come from the powers that be, and you can't trust anything they tell you anyway. All they do is lie. That's all they continually do is lie. So we're the hope for disclosure, and we're disclosing right now what we know and what we've experienced. Yes. That's what MUFON's doing. That's what Earl's doing. That's what I'm doing. That's what Ann's doing, and Dennis, and a lot of other people that are here that have been on the show and that I know. And we're just going to keep doing it and keep spreading it as far and wide as we can. And I don't know why people think that, well, our government said it's so it must be. We're, they don't, a lot of people don't take us seriously because we're not the government.
I mean, I'm not going to argue if they want to do disclosure.
What are they going to disclose?
I mean, as far as the military industrial.
I mean, anybody with a half a brain knows that Roswell happened.
Yeah. We've had a couple of questions. I missed the last one. How does one join MUFON for experiencers? You mean join the ERT? Become a
Dennis is
ERT?
an experiencer. He's even got a name for one of his grays. It's Jerry.
Oh, I have
Dennis
one
was on the
case.
show. It was great.
I have a TSA agent that has had the same entities visiting him since he was 7 years old, and now he's kind of upward middle age, and he gave them names. They didn't tell him names, but he called them Ho and Noisy. That was the other one, because there was one that would bring some sort of apparatus, this machine, and it made this noise, and so he would call him Noisy, and the other one was Ho, H-O, like ho ho ho. My guys never, my little four guys, there was a tall that stood in the periphery of this, I guess, a portal that they opened up, but he never left the portal. He just stood there like a sentinel. I sometimes forget to even talk about him.
Thank you, Ann.
I hear that sometimes the tall guys are the ones that are doing. The tall guys are the ones that are telepathic and that give you the calming message. Well, maybe he was not doing a very good job, because I didn't get any telepathy. They came in, they did their number, they got my blood, and they left the same way they came in. You can watch the video. Steve did a beautiful job of it.
Mike says the truth of visitors could reveal themselves whenever they want to. Well, they already have.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's numerous cases, and you can ask Whitley Strieber himself about this, where they have been seen walking right down the street in full view of everyone, and nobody noticed. So,
yeah,
I
had a weird sighting. It wasn't a vehicle. This thing was like this very ornate. We were driving up near Lake Elsinore on the way up to wine country, and we were traveling with a friend of mine who's a diehard skeptic. And she was busy talking. She was driving, and she was talking about, how do you investigate something that doesn't exist? And she's talking, and I'm seeing this object hanging over this mountain that we were passing. It was huge. And it was just, she couldn't see it. She didn't see it. I could see it. And I don't hallucinate. I don't have any mental issues.
You got another question from Dennis.
So somebody was asking how you could join the ERT. If you go to MUFON, you could actually just Google it, become a MUFON field investigator. You need to have 30 cases under your belt, because we don't want novices. We want people that are, have done case work, and that we know they're good at case work, and have a grasp and an understanding of this phenomenon. And then after you have had 30 cases under your belt, you can go put in an application to join the ERT. And then, we do the whole mentoring thing, the interviewing of the possible ERT member. So far, I've had 4 of my field investigators do this, and all 4 are ERT members now. It's work, and you have to go.
You do it professionally and correctly, and
yes, we take it very, very seriously, and I'll tell you, you have to have compassion. That is number one.
Earl,
compassion and an open mind.
Mm-hmm. Is MUFON the only organization like this left? I mean, there were others at one time, and they're all gone, and they are the sole remaining organization to study UFO phenomenon in this country.
I think we've got Avi Loeb's group. They just kind of opened doors a couple years ago, but MUFON has been doing this since 1969. There's a bumper sticker that you used to be able to get. I'm trying to get them to republish it, that says "Doing the Air Force's job since 1969." Right. And when the Air Force closed up Project Blue Book. And they closed Project Blue Book because they weren't, Dr. Hynek was not getting the results that the Air Force wanted. They wanted him to debunk it. And he started as a debunker, and at the end of his arc, he was like the biggest proponent of the, extraterrestrial hypothesis on the globe.
And he took Close Encounters of the Third Kind very seriously. He wasn't just all nuts and bolts. He knew
No.
those people were telling the truth. So
Yeah. Well, Hynek and I were similar in that, and Jacques Vallée, who I love. And
yes,
I know
me
that you
too.
love Jacques as well.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm a
sure
lot
do.
like Jacques. I think that any really, really good UFO case has something in there that's intentionally like absurd. It's like the Simonson case, where the craft lands, the little hatch opens up, two guys in crew cuts and silver jumpsuits sitting there in front of a cosmic hibachi, and they asked him for water. He brought it back, and they proceeded to grill up these bad pancakes for him. And it's so strange. It's almost like Monty Python is
Yeah,
writing the dialogue for some of these cases. But I think that our visitors, they have a sense of humor, and they have a love for absurdist humor, I think.
and there's so
And
many different ones visiting us too.
yes.
So like you're going to see, you're going to see vacationers coming here to catch a suntan and have bad pancakes, and people say, "Oh, that's ridiculous. I'll never believe that. Those people are obviously crazy." And you don't know what you don't know. I mean, if there's
Hynek
thousands
loved
of
that
different
case.
races coming here to visit, this is might be a vacation place to
Yeah.
come and check out these crazy humans, and so I mean, what will we be doing when we finally let go of free energy that we've been sitting on and start,
Oh,
traveling in space and going to other worlds? And we go to worlds that are less developed than us, and we may land and ask for water to make pancakes too. And of course, those people on that world will
oh, I
never be
want to try
believed.
that. I want to do that. Can you
They will never
imagine?
be believed.
I know. Well, maybe,
Is
I
there a
sort of feel
MUFON
like,
in Michigan?
hmm,
Is there a MUFON in Michigan?
yeah, there's MUFON is worldwide, and we have a representative in every state of the union. So
Okay,
yes, any state you're in, you can go to MUFON. You can report your UFO sighting. You can report
right.
your experience, and you will be treated properly. You okay? I'm reading this. Ann
This is
Carter.
Ann Carter.
Hmm.
She's
You
a dear
investigate
friend.
for Western New York. Oh, oh yeah. Well, that's fun. So
Yeah,
you worked for
she worked for
for
Whitley. Yeah.
Whitley. I can't say it. I can't say it because they haven't announced it yet. But we may have a very interesting keynote speaker at the 2025 MUFON symposium. But I'm not going to say anymore. I'll get into trouble. But I love
Yeah,
I
but,
love
but could
Whitley,
could
and
could
I
Anne
love the
get
way that he looks at this phenomenon.
could Anne get involved in that program though
Sure, you could. Sure.
to investigate?
Again, just join MUFON. I just tell people, go Google, put it in the Google machine. How do I become a MUFON field investigator? Um, you have to do that first. You have to get some UFO cases under your belt. But after you've done 30 cases, then you can go and put in an application for the ERT. You'll send it to Dr. George Medich. Your state director, once you're a field investigator, will know how to get a hold of Dr. George, and that will put you in the running to join the ERT. So,
Anne's had a lot of experience with
like I was
this,
saying,
so
we're always looking for new people, and you'll be fantastic. Well, we're looking for people like that.
yeah.
Honestly, if you have a background in this, the high strangeness,
Oh, she
that these
does.
cases can be so strange. And I'll say,
Then,
Hynek, he loved that pancake case. That was one of his favorite ones, to
yeah, I
his
can just
dying
hear his
day.
voice talking about it.
He
He had
loved
that,
that
he
case.
had that lovely voice.
Yes, and you know that Valet loved it because it's pure Magonia. It's one of those wonderful Magonia cases.
Yeah, and I
Unleavened
mean,
bread,
this,
plays into the whole fairy thing.
well, Whitley's books and
They
certainly,
come to me. How do you find cases? Judy was asking. People put
oh,
their cases into MUFON, and then if it's in Southern California, they're initially assigned to me, and then I divvy them out. Sometimes I'll take the case myself if it's close to me. Sometimes I'll feel like through intuition, I'll know that that case has my name on it. And that's one of the gifts that I was left with after my experience. You know, I have synchronicities like magic every single day. And my intuition and empathy just up through the rafters, you know. So sometimes I'll see a case, it'll come in and it's just like it calls out to me, and I'll take those myself. But I try to put the case with the person I think is best suited, you know, as far as, you know, the field investigator goes.
How do you get 30 cases? I mean, where do you start? I mean, so you join MUFON and then you say, hey, I want to go investigate a case, and they send you out.
This month alone, again, I have 12 active field investigators. A couple of them are kind of taking a vacation right now for a few months. There's another couple that recently her mother passed away, and so they're dealing with all that. So right now it's kind of like 8 people, and we had 38 cases in last month alone. So most of my field investigators, they're usually working on 3 to 4 cases at once. And as a field investigator, they like you to finish the case within 2 months, you know, that you've done the proper interviews. If there's video or photographs, we've got video analysts. I do a little bit of that myself. You know, you want to know the difference between a drone, a Mylar balloon flashing the sun back at somebody, and a, you know, a UFO. Before you're a field investigator, you can't become a ERT before you're a field investigator.
But you can join MUFON and get a case, and they see how you do with it.
Well,
that's what Judy's asking. I mean,
well, sometimes we'll take consultants. We have a few consultants in the ERT. Dr. Irina Scott, my dear friend Irina, she's an expert on the Pascagoula case. Has written a big, huge volume about the Pascagoula case with Calvin Parker and all that. But she's one of our consultants. Now, Kathleen Marden, she no longer takes cases herself, but she's a consultant. She's emeritus director of the ERT. But, you know, we do have people take consulting jobs with us. People like Les Velez and, of course, Yvonne Smith. You know, she you know, has spoken to our group a few times, and anyway, so that's one way, I guess, that you could become involved in that without being a field investigator.
Thank you, Earl. And before we close, Mike asked a question. Any comments on Chris Bledsoe? Said so.
Said so. I've met Chris. I like Chris. I don't agree with him on everything. I think I am a Christian. Okay. I come from that background. I would consider myself like a mystical Christian, sort of like Emanuel Swedenborg was. I'm not your garden variety evangelical. All right. No, not hardly. But I think that when we try to, you know, look at this phenomenon through a human lens, like if we try to shove a square peg into a round hole, it doesn't work. And we don't really do justice to the phenomenon when we try to understand it in human terms. So I don't really relate to the, you know, calling them demons or angels. I think that kind of, it muddies the field in a way. But I like Chris. I certainly don't have anything to say against him. So
yeah.
I hope Earl, that answered your question.
It's been great having you on the show. If you have any questions, we've got 2 We got 2 minutes left.
The surface of this stuff.
He'll be back. He's here to stay.
Okay, I'll be back.
We have to do more of your.
I'm going to send my TR3B over to pick you up, Steve.
Okay, well, yeah, there that TR3B is again, and that's constantly hitting me, and I have to constantly remind people that Whitley Strieber is the one who made that up. He did. He coined the term, and it was in one of his books, The Grays. Yeah,
and I've had a bunch of people from Lockheed try to take credit.
I know they try to say it's real, but so, Whitley was the one. It's in his book. Judy, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, wow. So I keep saying that.
My my earliest triangle case is like 1975, and I don't think that any of us were building triangular craft in 1975. So,
no,
there's that.
No, there is. So
maybe there's a few that are on loan to us.
Any last questions for Earl?
You guys gave me softball questions.
It's your last chance.
It is last chance.
And I want to thank Dennis for being here. And Mike says 100% Whitley. Okay.
I love Whitley.
He's back from Europe, and we'll be seeing him soon. In fact, Whitley's going to go on camera. Not that he hasn't been on the show, but we are going to cover one of his stories from his book Breakthrough, I believe, or maybe.
You got to give me a heads up on that one.
Confirmation. He's going to come here, and then we're going to go to lunch afterwards. So it'll be really fun to do one of his stories and do the visual work. Yeah. Well, Earl,
they had him speak. James Fox had him speak at his premiere for his last movie, and I got to hear Whitley. There. I've seen him on a panel with my dear friend Ray Hernandez before.
Well, I've worked for James Fox, and he ignores me for some reason. So
really,
I've reached out to. Well, yeah. I mean, I did all the effects on Out of the Blue and some other documentary you did.
I love the effects. That was you. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're going to close it up. It's 5:00, and we'll be seeing you soon. I know. And then I'm going to be on your podcast on Tuesday.
You are. We're going to be, we're recording it Tuesday, and then it'll probably be broadcast the next Tuesday. But I don't do the live streams.
You'll find out everything you wanted to know about Steve Neal, but we're afraid to ask.
Well, we'll have plenty to talk about, and we'll have 2 hours on my podcast. So
yeah, 2 hours. I'll have
to be
put
continued
to hold me up. I want to thank the community and for all your love and wonderful comments and your support. It's so much appreciated by not only Mary and myself, but Earl as well.
Thank you.
We will see you all again soon.